Alright, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Got a whole bunch of good news stuff for you today, as usual. But before we get into the main topic, I just want to shout out to another donator, Litecoin Lucky, for 0.019 Litecoin. Said that he was just getting a new wallet, so all the remaining that was in his wallet he sent to me. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for the donation. Always shout out the donators on the channel. Now moving on to the main story of the day, Satoshi Nakamoto revealed, says, UK non-profit Stylometry and bootstrapping proof. So, do I fully believe this article? I'm not really sure, to be totally honest, but it is kind of interesting. It's an interesting read, and I'm always interested in pretty much anything that has to do with Satoshi Nakamoto or his identity or how much Bitcoin is in the, or some of the original wallets, not necessarily the Genesis wallet, as there isn't too much Bitcoin in there. Sometimes people donate to that as a wishing well sort of donation thing. I'm not sure why people do it, but the Genesis wallet, if you send Bitcoin to it, it cannot be moved. And for some reason, there is quite a bit of Bitcoin in there, and people donate to it pretty much every day for some reason. So you might be like, hey, MrSotko, what's Stylometry?
Stylometry.
Stylometry. The statistical analysis of variations in literary style between one writer or genre and another. So, self-described informative and interactive crypto website Crypto, a non-profit based in England, believes it struck ecosystem gold by discovering Satoshi Nakamoto's real identity. It's the second attempt by the outfit, and both times they've relied upon Stylometry before concluding that Bitcoin Cash developer, because this is on Bitcoin.com, Gavin and Andresen, is Satoshi hiding in plain sight. This go-around analysis involves not only statistical analysis and prose, but also Eater's bootstrapping method and an attempt to eliminate natural bias in such conclusions. I probably said that totally wrong, but oh well, you guys get the point. Bitcoin Cash developer Gavin Andresen is the real Satoshi Nakamoto. Two upfront admittances, if readers indulge. This, the first is, I am a Troy Watson fan. I enjoy his work and count myself as someone who approves of his earnest dive into such subjects. Second, I have probably read more about the present pseudonym under examination than is healthy, and not just because I make my living in the space. Flatly, I am obsessed. No clickbait here, no intentionality, no hype. This is a fun pursuit, and one worth some efforts as it involves cryptocurrency's origin story. Now, everybody wants to know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, I suppose, that is in crypto. Well, at least most people. But the thing is, at the same time, I really want to know, but at the same time, does Satoshi Nakamoto, or whatever the team that is named Satoshi Nakamoto, really want to be identified? I don't know. And that's why I would not be surprised 10 years down the line if Satoshi Nakamoto was just a pseudonym for a team of people who develop Bitcoin so that they could test Bitcoin in the world and be like, hey, everybody likes this Bitcoin thing. Let's make national currencies and rule the world with our one world government. I'm not too big of a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I do love myself a good conspiracy documentary. Always, mama, that juicy drama. But, oh, I'm sorry, guys. Souse! But I wouldn't be surprised. It's just one of those things, like 10 years down the road, I would just be like, called that one. Crypto is a curious little outfit based in a lesser-known part of the United Kingdom. They've the site proper, English, a new aggregation service and what appear to be variations on the public relations themes of initial coin offerings and blockchains to publish one, let alone two articles asserting both times how Bitcoin Cash developer Gavin Andresen is Satoshi for once and for all. Speaks volume about either the confidence Zai has in its writer or the fact they're sporting for clicks. Probably. Consider the sentence hitting readers right between the eyes. We've identified Bitcoin Cash developer Gavin Andresen as being the real Satoshi Nakamoto. Mr. Watson boldly asserts before an immediate pivot towards technique. The primary methodology used in both examinations is what's known as stylometry. It's a study of prose, I don't even know, put up against other writers as a way of determining patterns and is an actual predictive of authorship when done well. Stylometry is picked up in recent years as an investigative tool when faced with the specter of Satoshi Nakamoto. So everybody's like sort of taking the original emails from Satoshi Nakamoto and looking into them to see, you know, who is actually writing these and what words they use when and how they use their words to identify the person who wrote it. And Satoshi Nakamoto often uses English phrases like bloody. I suppose you could say Australian as well. I don't know if Australians say bloody very much, but either way, they use sort of English phrases rather than American English phrases. So that could lead to something, because I know for sure that being an American, I've literally never used the term bloody in any email or any writing that I've ever done. So I think the only kind of people who would do that is either A, trying to hide their identity, or 2, a genuine United Kingdom individual, or possibly even Australian. That's why some people think it might be Craig White, even though I don't think so at all. I think he's just some kind of guy who said that he was. I mean, that would be like, yeah, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. Like, no, you're not, sir. The pseudo-anonymous creator of Bitcoin holds more than 5% of Bitcoin in circulation, making him the first crypto billionaire. Should Mr. Nakamoto decide for shits and giggles to dump a significant amount of coin onto the market, not only would the price drop by a virtue of economic law, confidence would probably crash as well, bringing down a giant chunk of whatever value Bitcoin has. So it's a big deal who Satoshi is. The technology to out a writer wishing to remain in his proven its worth. This is a weirdly written article. In the mid-1960s, Frederick Mosteller used Stylometry to establish authorship of the hotly contested Federalist Papers, determining James Madison as their probable main author instead of Alexander Hamilton. It took him almost half a decade, whereas today's software exists to run such analysis pretty fast. More famously and recently, no less an author than zillion-selling Harry Potter creator J.K. Rowling was found to be the actual author of The Cuckoo's Calling. A few years ago, she wished to have her writing evaluated on its own merits, and so Miss Rowling took a pen name. Stylometry outed her. It's kind of like Stephen King's pen name. I can't remember what his pen name is. You know, he wrote a few books under a different name. My mother really loved Stephen King. She would always read all of his books, including his other pen name. And actually, my wife reads or has read the Federalist Papers. I know she kind of reads it once in a while at work. So that's kind of an interesting method of determining authorship. And Xi Crypto isn't the first attempt applying the statistical method to Satoshi's true identity. As Bitcoin price began to skyrocket, so did interest in who its creator might have been. During Craig Wright's supremely odd public display, outed by supposed hackers claiming to be Satoshi and then suggesting it was a hoax, a couple of once well-regarded tech journalists believed Mr. Wright to be Satoshi. International Business Times employed the very firm used to blow Miss Rowling's cover. They soon determined what most in the know suspected: Mr. Wright wasn't Bitcoin's father. He'd responded that he and David Kleiman collaborated on the project, but even that has been posthumously tainted. He managed to fool or convince or onboard original Bitcoin dev Gavin Andresen, who went so far as to record video testimony. Vitalik Buterin, Ethereum genius, weighed in on the noise of the matter and later just outright spat fraud in Mr. Wright's direction. So this guy is Satoshi, the guy that wears welding goggles. Is that supposed to be like some kind of steampunk thing, or is he actually welding? Because you shouldn't wear welding goggles. They're really dark. I'm just saying. I've welded before. I'm not good at it, but I can. You know, you take a stick, you turn it on. You know, you kind of hit it against the metal a little bit, and you just got to keep it just barely above, and it kind of magnetically wants to get on there. I can't weld, but I've done it before. Late 2017, price fever pitch reached maximum overdrive, and Michael Chan took his own swing at discovery. The Georgetown University and Booz Allen Hamilton alum concluded Satoshi was a group of devs, and some authoring the white paper while others engaged in email exchanges. He narrowed it down to 4. Nick Szabo, which I believe thoroughly as at least a creator of Bitcoin. So I really like that they named that. Ian Grigg, Wei Dai, I've never heard of those two. Maybe I have, maybe I should have. Timothy May, Gavin Anderson wasn't considered a subject, to which we return. Nick Szabo in, I think, 1995 or 96, something like that. I may have my year just slightly off there. Nick Szabo wrote an article. He's a cryptographer and computer scientist, yada, yada. And he's still around today. And he wrote an article all the way back in 1995. So we're talking about 10, 13, or 15 years or so before Bitcoin actually came out, basically going over the methods at which you would go through to make such a thing called Bitcoin. Now, he didn't name it Bitcoin in his paper. You can actually look this up online. I would have already had this article. I should have already had this article pulled up, and his papers. But basically, he names all the things that Bitcoin and current crypto have. Nearly 2 decades before. Little over a decade, maybe, I don't know, before Bitcoin actually came out, like public keys, private keys, peer-to-peer exchange, etc., with the cryptography, and creating the coins with proof of work or some kind of method. So, a long time before Bitcoin came out, this was suspected, this was already speculated on by Nick Szabo. So it would not surprise me if Nick Szabo either is Satoshi Nakamoto or was one of the few people who collaborated and made it. I don't think Satoshi Nakamoto is one person. I think that is a pseudonym for a team of people. Why they wanted to be anonymous with it, I don't know. There's probably a lot of reasons, but who knows? So Mr. Watson's details how using Eater's bootstrapped stylometry, oh my god, this is a tough article, method, for this finding support our previous article on the topic that also identified Gavin as Satoshi using principal component analysis of Burroughs delta. Knowing full well the history I've outlined above, he concludes a big part of this failure can be attributed to the lack of convergence validity in the stylometry field, and a pitfall within the field itself. Oh, got all kinds of hiccups. It must be that polar pop. Come on, Circle K, where's my, I'm just gonna arbitrary number, $4,200 check. So, and a pitfall within the field itself, how stylometrics often cherry-pick results due to their algorithms producing vastly different results when slightly tweaked. He acknowledged this led to suggesting Wei Dai as Satoshi, at least for a time. Using stylometry analysis, I've discovered I may be Satoshi Nakamoto. This time, Mr. Watson's confidence in Mr. Dreesen as Satoshi extends from Eater, who created a bootstrapping method specifically designed to overcome the problem of cherry-picking elements like most frequent words. The approach uses Burroughs delta to find a difference between two texts, but also uses random sampling of MFW's ranges so as to output more robust results. Burroughs delta is basically a Manhattan distance of z-scores, which is sourced from a list of top words used in an entire corpus. The rest of the article reads similarly, and the interested would do well with frequent searches of Wikipedia. Nevertheless, he's found that the first nearest neighbor was Satoshi's email text, followed by 3 of Gavin and Dreesen's GitHub documents, and then followed by Satoshi's forum texts. These findings are quite reasonable because not only do they validate the links between Satoshi white paper emails, forums, but they also cluster Gavin as the likely author. It's also of interest that Gavin's style was so much like Satoshi's white paper that he beat Satoshi himself with the forum text. So here's the thing. We have Gavin and Dreesen, Nick Szabo, Wei Dai, all these people. And then there's Hal Finney, too. So I couldn't remember his name the last video I talked about Satoshi Nakamoto, because for some reason I always forget this guy's name. But it's Hal Finney, who passed away from ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. And he was the first one to receive a lot of emails from Satoshi Nakamoto. And he was also the first one to receive the very first Bitcoin across the network. So as far as we know. So that's kind of interesting that obviously he had some kind of connection with the people or person who created Bitcoin, because you don't just receive the first Bitcoin out of nowhere. I mean, first of all, Bitcoin at the time was extremely primitive, and you don't just have all these new wallets, you don't have all these exchanges that we have today. So you would have to have the source Bitcoin Core wallet. And no, I don't mean Bitcoin Core like in how the Bitcoin Cash proponents call Bitcoin Core. I just mean the Bitcoin Core wallet. He would have obviously had to get this wallet and then communicate his key that was generated to Satoshi Nakamoto or the team that created Bitcoin to receive that. So it leads me to believe that Hal Finney was involved in it and is possibly one of the creators of Bitcoin. Because you don't just receive it out of nowhere. That would be like me receiving the first Bitcoin and going, How did I get this Bitcoin? First of all, how did I get the Bitcoin wallet on my computer to receive this Bitcoin in the first place? Or how did I generate a private key on the blockchain to receive this Bitcoin? So everybody would obviously question me if I was the first person to get the first Bitcoin, because one, how did I know about Bitcoin? How did I get the wallet? How did somebody know to send me the one Bitcoin? So there's obviously some kind of connection there, and it's just a super interesting mystery. It's one of the world's greatest current mysteries, in my opinion. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto, or who are Satoshi Nakamoto as a group? So, you know, I don't know if this guy is the creator or not. Again, I highly doubt that it was one person, because all of this code, writing all of this, speculating on all of this, had to have required multiple people. Also, you know, whenever a new coin starts out, it's really centralized. Even though, you know, Bitcoin and a lot of coins are decentralized or claim to be, they have to start out centralized, because, I mean, you have to create your own node. You have to do some mining on your own to make sure your code works. And so, you know, it starts out centralized, and then there has to be a second node, and then a third node, and a fourth node, and then it starts to be decentralized. So obviously, it had to be some kind of collaboration of people, because how would you get all of this information about Bitcoin out there? You know, as much as we like to believe that anything can go viral on the internet, it's easier said than done to go viral on the internet. You need a lot of people to share your video or whatever, or your picture or your meme or this, that, or the other thing. You need to post it around to multiple forums so that other people can read it, so that they can post it on other forums. So I think it had to be a team of people. Could this guy, this steampunk guy, is he welding? He has to be welding. If he's not welding, I'm actually kind of upset. So why is he wearing welding goggles? Why is he wearing welding goggles in his Twitter? Anyway, so, you know, kind of an interesting article there. It didn't really get to anything. It said that it's revealed, but obviously it's slightly clickbaity. I don't think that... you know, he is Satoshi Nakamoto himself. Again, I think it's a group of people. Could he be involved? Yes, possibly. But again, with Stylometry, whatever, you know, as it said in the article, you can kind of tweak the algorithm to get the results that you want. It's really similar to weather. And I know that's like, you're like, what? What is that correlation? But there is these massive servers that, you know, calculate the weather or calculate the trajectory of a hurricane, right? And if you're watching the news when a hurricane is coming to Florida or to wherever you live, and you're watching the news, most likely you will hear that blah 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 data suggests that it's going to go right up through Florida. And then our other data, it suggests that it goes right up the coast. And then our other data suggests with lower probability that it's going to go to the Gulf Coast and just fizzle out, right? So you've probably heard that multiple times. And that's because there's different weather algorithms with different servers and different simulations that run off of different code. One code will calculate it for lower probabilities, one calculates it for the most probability, one calculates it for this probability, such and such. So with Stylometry, you know, you could really bring it down, boil it down to just about anybody that writes something. Like, well, I calculate it because he uses this word so many times, or that word so many times, or he likes to, you know, make sentences this long, or this, that, and the other thing. So who knows? Still not confirmed yet, but an interesting read regardless, to just speculate on the people involved. So users of the popular video game streaming application Twitch can now tip each other using a variety of cryptocurrencies. So I remember many years ago when it was really popular to tip Dogecoin on Twitch. It was, I think, one of the main... Other than the profit factor of it when it first came out, I think one of the main things that I remember about Dogecoin was that it was often tipped on Twitch. People would Twitch 1,000 or 10,000 at a time, and it would really only be a few dollars. Like when you would tip that many. Now I don't have the math exactly in my head because usually Dogecoin is worth very, very little each. But you know, you tip thousands and thousands of them, and it's just a few bucks to your favorite Twitch streamers or whoever you believe. But now. Streamlabs, which, in case you don't have a Twitch, if you have a Twitch, you probably know Streamlabs. But let me say, for those who don't have one, what you do is you connect your Streamlabs to your Twitch and to your recording software, like I am recording on now. And so when I go live, my Streamlabs is active. You just kind of put a little plug-in into your streaming software. And like, let's say when somebody donates, $5 to me or any other Twitch, that's when you see that little thing pop up on the screen. And every Twitch has their own, Twitch streamer has their own little thing they go about doing it. But you'll see that little taco run across the screen, or the little zombie when somebody follows. So that is basically Streamlabs, where you can track all of your donations. And so now the platform will include Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, and as we notice, this is news.bitcoin.com, which is, do we all know, a Bitcoin Cash website, interestingly enough. Although, from time to time, they have good news on it, because a lot of writers are not necessarily as biased as Roger Ver. So, of course, they include Bitcoin Cash first, and then Litecoin and Bitcoin Core, which should just be called Bitcoin. So that's pretty interesting. I don't even really want to read the entire article. Moreover, there are no fees involved in the process, minus the network fee associated with the specific cryptocurrency chosen for tipping. So Streamlabs doesn't charge a fee, but some network transactions apply depending on the currency you're using. So, of course, there's always network transactions, but Streamlabs not accepting any fees for it, which is pretty cool. So we'll have to see how that goes. So I wonder if they just have a like your own little wallets in Streamlab that you can actually send out, or if you put in your own key that sends it directly to your wallet. But I don't stream on Twitch too much, as my following on Twitch is pretty small. I used to have a growing Twitch presence back in my gaming days and my casting days, shoutcasting. But I since kind of quit Twitch. And I stream from time to time on YouTube, which I consider a very inferior streaming platform. But with my subscribers, it's much easier to get viewers and talk with you guys. And the reason why I stream games from time to time on my crypto channel is that originally it was a gaming channel. And 2, I like to game. And 3, I like to have you guys come in the stream and we get to talk. We get to have some fun and chat, and people talk to me, and then I get to respond. So it creates a lot of conversation. And it's kind of fun. Days after the launch, the EOS blockchain still isn't live. Days after first initiating its launch in an unorthodox distributed process, the EOS blockchain isn't live, but so far the software appears to be progressing towards the goal without major issues. As profiled by CoinDesk, after raising $4 billion over the last year to create the software necessary to launch the project, launch the blockchain, the company that created it is leaving to its community. What? You just got $4 billion. You just got $4 billion, and now you're going to leave it up to everybody else? What? That is the biggest slap in the face to actually get. Of course, I get it. I mean, crypto is decentralized, and it should be up to the community to decide how it goes. But what did you get $4 billion for? To make some software that cost $4 billion? Microsoft Windows, the new Windows probably doesn't even cost $4 billion to develop. Like Windows, whatever the next one is, Windows 11 or whatever. It probably doesn't even cost them $4 billion. And if it does, it's because it's distributed across the entire planet on almost virtually every single computer in the world. Get real, EOS. What are they doing on their yachts in the Mediterranean or what? Like, amazing. So they're leaving it up to the community to get it off the ground. That doesn't mean there haven't been material updates, however, or that Block 1, the company in question, haven't been involved in the initial booting effort. Alrighty. Rather, the company released version 1 of the EOS software on Saturday, and it's already published one update to the code. Released at Block 1, Daniel Larimer described as preventing a potential crash in the update notes, along with other minor issues. This means that as of now, participants in the EOS initial coin offering, which ended on Friday, have purchased all the initial Ethereum tokens that will ever be used to bootstrap the project. The plan was always for these tokens to be frozen at the end of the ICO in preparation for a formal blockchain launch, meaning those coins won't be tradable again until EOS is live. It's unclear at this time how exchanges are managing their bookkeeping while trading continues. The last big event took place June 2nd, when the tokens froze on Ethereum and so-called snapshots were taken in order to preserve a record that could be later used to allocate tokens issued on the EOS blockchain to their owners. By all accounts, this occurred on time and without any issues. So you might be wondering how you can trade if all your EOS tokens are frozen. Well, they're not. They are frozen, but if you already had them on an exchange when the freezing took place, you can still trade. They're just essentially doing bookkeeping. So, like, if you make a trade, if you have $100 worth of EOS or something like that, you make a trade, now you have $102. They're just essentially crediting you that money. And now, you make another buy, and now you have 102 EOS instead of 100 EOS or something like that, whatever. You're gaining more EOS by trading, and you're just essentially bookkeeping that and saying, okay, you have 102 EOS. You don't technically have it. You can't move it, but you have 102 EOS, and now you can sell them for even more money and take off your money. So it's just essentially off the blockchain, just written down, essentially. So things were going as expected. A few road bumps, no show stopping problems. I'm expecting the blockchain to be live for the next couple of days. In the next couple of days, one of EOS's most prominent endorsers. Still, it has been remarkable how unified block producers, or the entities jockeying the process transaction on the new blockchain, have appeared outwardly given the global scale of the launch. I've been part of the calls of 60 to 90 people every day, CEO of EOS Canada told CoinDesk. What I think is important is we all published agreement to launch one chain. So this article goes on and on, talking about how other communities are trying to make their own mainnet for EOS. So there's this problem with people trying to make their own mainnet. So again, all of these articles will be in the description below if you'd like to check them out. So moving on. So basically, in a nutshell, EOS is not live yet. Technically, everything's still frozen. You can still trade if you already had your coins on an exchange, but that's about it. So Japanese internet giant GMO Internet has revealed prices and specs for its new from-the-ground-up Bitcoin miner, the world's first based on a 7-nanometer chip. Oh, man, the hiccups are unreal today. So I talked about this miner many days ago, and it didn't have any kind of specs to it or money. It just basically said, oh, a new 7-nanometer miner is coming. It's going to be amazing. So $1,999 or $2,000. I'm not a big fan of ASICs. I feel that they're sort of ruining the mining of crypto. But it is apparently a SHA-256 miner. The B2 will provide a hash rate of 24 terahash, which is pretty impressive, with power consumption at 1950 watts, which basically means that it's going to be very difficult to use in the United States, as we all have 110 outlets, which usually provide about 1,600 or so watts. Now, I'm not an electrician by any means, so if anybody in the description happens to be an electrician or very knowledgeable about electricity, please comment. Feel free to comment down below. You could run this on a 220 power supply watt, or 220, and it would be much easier to run. But if you just plug this into 110, it's really hard to even get any kind of 110 power supply that is 1950 watts. If you go out and you get a $2,000 or 2,000 watt Chinese server power supply, they're almost always 220. So how you even run this thing in the United States is going to be difficult, to be totally honest. Particularly if you ran multiple, you would actually have to have in your fuse box probably over 20 amp fuses to prevent them from turning off. So that breaks down to 81 watts per terahash. By comparison, the current market leader, S9, offers 14 terahash at around 1,300 watt consumption. So pretty good. The problem is with SHA-256 Bitcoin mining is that the 14 terahash only gets you about $6.10 a day. See my video previous to this one. So with 24 terahash, that's not even double. So you might get like $10 a day with this unit for $2,000. That's not counting your electricity. That's not counting the, if it breaks down, you got to ship it all the way to Japan or China. It's manufactured in Taiwan, so you'd have to ship it to China or Taiwan. I know they like to be considered away from China, whatever. And that's going to cost you a lot of money. You got to understand that it's going to cost you shipping. It's going to cost you custom shipping, which is even more. And power. Of course, I already mentioned power consumption is going to cost you a lot per day. And here's the thing with power consumption is that, you might be paying 10 or 13 cents a kilowatt, but once you use a certain amount of electricity, with most electricity companies, they actually increase the cost per kilowatt hour. So if you use a certain amount in that month and you go over that amount, usually it'll cost you another couple or 2 or 3 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's going to cost you even more with this machine. So ASICs anymore are just not, most of the time, not worth it. We're actually going to skip the blockchain, the Verge blockchain attack. We will read, actually I'll read the first here, and then I will leave it up to you guys to read the rest. So we've been getting hit with multiple 51% attacks, and I don't know when it's going to stop here. So the notorious 51% attacks is the major fault of cryptocurrency protocols, but it's rarely seen, especially among the most popular cryptocurrencies, I guess. Yet in the past couple of months, the exploit whereby a single miner takes control of over half of the network's total computing power and then can bend the protocol's rules in their favor has been seen twice, and on the same blockchain, just with Verge anyway. There was Bitcoin Gold and Monocoin as well, and I think more. Yet in the past couple months, the exploit whereby a single miner takes control of over half of the network's total computing power. Wow, I already read that. Indeed, a Verge, a privacy-oriented cryptocurrency recently propelled into the limelight by a partnership with popular adult entertainment site Pornhub, suffered two hacks perpetuated through 51% attacks, and kind of a mining exploit, really, that saw the attackers absconding with millions of dollars worth of its native cryptocurrency, Verge. And during the first attack in April, only a couple of weeks before Pornhub partnership, the hacker was able to get away with 250,000 Verge. And during the latest in mid-May, an attacker was able to exploit 1.7 million worth of the currency. So according to researchers, the exploits are a product of simple changes to the underlying code, which cryptocurrency protocols are typically built on, and the challenges of being able to predict what unintended consequences will arise from those changes. Sure, Verge developers were only trying to design a better cryptocurrency for payments, but by tweaking small parameters such as the length of time a block can be valid, the group has opened itself up to blockchain attacks. So getting incentives right and keeping them right is hard. College professor and Liquidity Network founder Arthur Gervais said, that is, blockchains are built on very precariously stacked incentives whereby all stack holders work together toward a common goal as to remove the chance that one entity takes full control. Things obviously don't look good, said Daniel Goldman, the CTO of cryptocurrency analysis site The Abacus, who's been tracking the attacks. The issues that initially slipped into the code base were a result of pure carelessness, incorporating code from other open source software without understanding its implications. Vergecoin. Vergecoin is absolutely the worst. I think Verge developers are some of the worst developers in the entire crypto world. So it happened to Verge twice, and it was really more of a mining exploit. And I don't know if I would want to consider it a 51% hash rate attack, but rather, I guess you kind of could. But it's more of a mining exploit where they exploited the timestamp, so they would just mine, because Verge goes from like script to X11, I think, to Lyra 2, to script, I think. There's like 5 or 6 algorithms, and they go in order with Verge. So the first block will be mined here, then the second block will be mined on this algorithm, and so on and so on and so on. And somebody managed to mess with the timestamp of their miner so that it looked like the miner was an hour before each one. So therefore it could just keep mining the same algorithm over and over. And every second they were getting a block, essentially, a ton of Verge. Millions of dollars worth of Verge very, very fast. So Bitcoin has recently died for the 300th time. According to 99 Bitcoin's Bitcoin obituary list, the cryptocurrency faced its most recent death in the latest obituary provided by Forbes. Bitcoin celebrates its 300th death anniversary. Following an article from Forbes published May 30th, the article claims that Bitcoin's Achilles heel is a huge amount of electricity required by crypto mining operations, which I kind of agree. I don't think it's actually dead, but the huge amount of electricity I do, it's almost getting ridiculous at this point. But either way, According to Forbes, Bitcoin miners underestimate the risk associated with energy consumption on a global scale. The report also stresses such issues as power theft and the cost of mining equipment that is becoming more and more expensive. Predictably, Bitcoin miners downplay both their energy usage and the threat it poses to ordinary people, ordinary businesses, and the planet they occupy. And as we can see here, 1,950 watts per unit. Unbelievable, the new miner there. At the time of the latest death recorded by 99 Bitcoin, so if you had I'm sorry, I keep interrupting myself here, but if you had a whole warehouse of these, you would literally need like a coal power plant to power that. I think they were doing that in Australia. There was an old power plant, like I think it was a coal power plant that was shut down a long time ago. And they decided to fire it back up to literally start mining crypto. So at the time of the latest death recorded by 99 Bitcoin, Bitcoin was trading at 73.12. In December, when Bitcoin died its 200th death, the Bitcoin price hit 11,000 mark. I wonder what you even mark as a death anyway. Like how low does the price have to go before you mark it as a death? You know, that's weird. So according to 99 Bitcoin stats, the major cryptocurrency died 62 times this year. But what does that even mean, though? Like just because the price went down, what if it goes down $1? Is that dead? Is it 100 if it's dead, or 1,000 if it's dead? Like another obituary. This year, various pundits and public figures proffered their own suggestions as to why Bitcoin is doomed to fail, including the notorious Warren Buffett statement that Bitcoin is probably rat poison squared, and Bank of England Governor Mark Carney's claim that Bitcoin has failed as a currency. Now, I don't entirely agree with that statement, but it's not a good currency. It really isn't. It's a great store of value. It's great to trade. It's great to get everybody into crypto, but it's just not the great. It's simply not the best currency. If you really wanted a really good currency, you know, it just needs to be faster. It needs to be faster, and you know, people don't want to spend their Bitcoin because it's worth too much, and they fear that you know, in 2 weeks it's going to be $1,000 more, and they're going to end up losing money. So it really isn't the greatest currency at currently. I think it was a lot better before a lot of other currencies came along. I love Bitcoin, but it needs some work. So another idea is that people will end up getting bored with Bitcoin because the price is so stagnant. I think that's why a lot of people got into crypto, is because the price was going up and up and up and up and up, and everybody wanted to make their Lambo, and everybody was trading, and it was amazing, and then it went down, and everybody's like, oh, screw this, I'm just getting out. This is boring now. And another aspect about Bitcoin is the fact that it doesn't really have smart contracts. You can physically write to the blockchain of Bitcoin, but it's honestly kind of useless. It doesn't really make very good smart contracts. I don't really think anybody has ever done it. Maybe there's a couple examples, but exactly. So basically, by just saying, oh, I think there's only a couple examples, you know, that just goes to show that people don't do it. So I think that in that sense, smart contract coins like Ethereum and now apparently EOS and Tron, if you want to say that, even though I don't like Tron, what is it, Omni and Neo, I think those will do a lot better, particularly Ethereum, because it is the current brand name for smart contract coins, because they just have more utility to them. I think the more utility you have, the more useful you are. Obviously, you're going to be more successful. So while Bitcoin has recently faced its 300th death and dropped in value by around 20% last month, several prominent figures in the tech and business worlds have made bullish statements on its future. Steve Wozniak said, only Bitcoin is pure digital gold, reiterating the statement of Twitter Jack Dorsey that in a decade, Bitcoin will be the single currency of the world and the internet. See, I'm not sure about that, because in a decade, we can see technology that, you know, blows this current technology out of the water. I mean, a decade ago in 2009, you know, you know, technology doesn't look too much different. We had smartphones, we had, you know, this, that, and the other thing just the same. But in every decade that goes by, you know, in a decade ago, Bitcoin didn't exist. You know, we could say, you know, 9 years ago in 2019, if this was 2019, we could say, oh, a decade ago, Bitcoin just barely existed. It was the only cryptocurrency at the time. So, of course, it's going to be amazing. But in a decade from now, there'll be more currencies. There'll be more development on those currencies. There'll be more development on Ethereum and such. And I just don't think Bitcoin is going to be that amazing in a decade. I hope it is. But, you know, it is a good store of value in the sense that Steve Wozniak said it's pure digital gold. But it's not the greatest currency. It doesn't have much utility. It's really just a savings account at the moment. And that's a big problem. And the developers move really, really slowly. Like, I have no idea what's going on with the development of Bitcoin. I will say that Bitcoin, there's developers of Bitcoin, but they can't just say, hey, we're going to do this, and then all the nodes change. Everybody has to agree, like when Segwit and this, that, and the other thing come out, or they disagree and it doesn't come out. So the Bitcoin developers can say, hey, we have made this. And if the world doesn't accept that, they can't force it because it has to be accepted with all the nodes. So it's interesting how it all works, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in the future. But I think people are a little too bullish on Bitcoin anymore. I think there's going to be a lot more coins with a lot more utility and a lot more development that will create better smart contracts, a better currency, faster, more popular, and it's a matter of time before somebody comes up with the currency that everybody's like, wow, this is amazing, that suits everybody, that suits gamers, that suits old people, you know, I don't mean to bash, but suits businessmen, that suits the regular Joe, that suits everybody, just like, you know, a smartphone. Everybody needs a phone for the most part. Almost everybody has a smartphone. You might not, but you know that basically everybody has a phone. And I know that's kind of two different things, but when you think about it, everybody has a wallet. I got a wallet in my pocket. What is it about crypto? What is it with crypto that is everybody is going to accept? That it's going to be something like that everybody must have it, other than like a government cryptocurrency, because that is the great evil. That's what's going to change the crypto world in 10 years. Maybe not Bitcoin. We'll see. A Hong Kong-based prominent crypto assets exchange and a top 3 trading floor in many crypto assets implemented a participatory mechanism, which I really love. I love this, OKX. This is a great idea that allows its users to vote on token listing proposals. Under the scheme, projects supported by a majority of OKX users will have the option for a priority listing review. To vote, the users must hold exchange's own OKB token. I don't love that. That is used as a ballot token. 0.01 OKB counts for 1 vote. All right, this is starting to get a little shady. OKX has introduced another method of fast-tracking tokens to get listed, calling community building. If a candidate project manages to bring at least 50,000 new users to the OKX exchange, and at least 20,000 of them remain active during a certain time frame, the listing application of its token will also be given a priority for the review. Fair enough. If you bring 50,000 new users and 20,000 of them remain active, then they do have incentive to list that particular token or coin. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You know, that fair enough, right? Because if you have that many people demanding and that many people wanting to come and put their coin token on the exchange, then that's fine. I don't like the fact that they want you to use OKB token as a vote. That seems like a really shady way to just increase their token value. But I suppose you got to do what you got to do. So nevertheless, before submitting for a user's vote, the project will be viewed by the exchange's listing review community under a certain set of criteria. Part of the consideration is published on the OKX website. You can click that. But the community can also consider other factors it deems fit. Committee's decision will have a 50% weighing in the overall listing decision. This means that only those projects that have favorable opinions on both of the committee and exchange users will pass the selection. Fair enough. Draws will be resolved on the OKX management. Furthermore, a privileged class of users called prime investors is being created on OKX to ensure oversight of listing-related issues. According to OKX, prime investors are reputable and experienced institutions or individuals in the blockchain industry who are not part of the core team of any token project. Holding at least 500,000 OKB is required for prime investor status. So, okay, guys, send me 500,000 OKB, whoever you are. Just email me, because I know I know it's going to happen. There's like, yeah, I happen to have 500,000 OKB, and you can be a prime investor status, and I'll make some decisions here. I don't know, but either way, I really don't like the idea of their OKB tokens. You got to do what you got to do, I suppose, but not my problem. Project teams may already start applying for listings under the revised listing rules. When voting starts, each round will last for 7 days, and 3 projects will be selected in each round. So OKX will initiate 1 vote per week. Participating in the listing process will be available to OKX users who hold the platform's OKB tokens and to prime investors. OKX has distributed a number of OKB tokens as part of the community building effort. Community building? The ability to vote on listing candidates are one of the many features that the token will have. First and foremost, 50% of OKX fees received during this week will be distributed to OKB holders as a bonus every Friday. The listing of possible uses of the OKX tokens includes privileged trading fees. According to a statement issued by OKX management, the exchange plans to build a global ecosystem based on the OKB token. OKB will act as a base token for global chain teams to utilize in the construction of the ecosystem. Will also be used by listing candidates to pledge security deposits. This deposit is required to finalize the listing process. So that is basically all I have for you guys today. So we're in a good situation with crypto. It's not too bad. I was just looking at the price of Bitcoin. It's up a little bit. We're starting to go a little bit bullish in the crypto world. So Satoshi Nakamoto, not actually revealed, maybe a slightly misleading title there, but it is good to speculate on some of the people and some of the things. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as usual, I will see you guys next time.